Welcome back to the kitchen, everybody. The adventure continues with our series on compound butter. This is episode number 2. Okay, last week we've seen how to make a prawn butter and use it to make a recipe called the sautéed chicken in a prawn butter sauce. This week we're going to be tackling a new recipe from another chef, Frédy Girardet from Switzerland, near Geneva, has been hailed as one of the finest chefs in Europe and sometimes the world. A friend of Joël Robuchon that always said that he was an absolute magician when it comes to pairing ingredients. He had that ability to take any random ingredients and turn this into something absolutely extraordinary. So I'm quite curious to make one of his recipes and I can't wait to taste it. The recipe is going to have us to poach a chicken, not sauteing the chicken, and learning how to make a watercress butter. The name of the recipe we're going to be making is a poached chicken with a cream of watercress sauce. I hope you're ready. We're going to be learning plenty of new things, so put your apron on. Let's go. So similar to last week, we're going to begin here by making the flavored butter, the compound butter. Here it's a watercress butter. So this is watercress. If you've never seen it, it looks like spinach. And it's got this kind of, it's very fragile. It's got these little stems and it grows actually in water. And when you want to use it here, the first thing we're going to have to do before washing the leaves, we have to pluck the leaves out like this. And you don't use the stem. So next, when you got the leaves, before we do anything, you have to wash them in a bath of cold water, once or twice. And we're going to drain them and pat them dry. And then begin to mix this with the butter. So I'm all done, the leaves are ready, they're nice and dry, nice and clean, and now we're going to have to make the butter. So for the butter, you need to have softened butter, which is a beurre pommade, which is a very, very soft butter, that we're going to mix with the leaves. Now typically the leaves have to be blanched first, but Frédy Girardet, as I'm saying in a different technique, is not doing that step, he's actually using the watercress raw. So perhaps it's got stronger flavor, because blanching can remove a layer of flavor, and this is very delicate. So let's have a look. We're going to have to process this first, and then add this with the butter, and we'll be done. Now, when it comes to processing herbs like this in small quantity, we don't have tons. Do not use the large bowl of the processor. I've got this attachment at the top. I've got that little blade, you see? And I'm going to be using this, try to contain everything, and we have to process the heck out of it. So you see it fits nicely, and I'm going to be able to pack them up. Now the goal here is almost to liquefy these leaves, but it's not going to come at once. We're going to see, but most likely we're going to have to stop, adjust the leaf, push them down, and repeat the process. So I'll do a first go for a few seconds, and we'll see how we go. All right, I stop. If I did about 30 seconds. It was first like chopped parsley at the top, but at the bottom it starts to be really wet like a paste. Give it another go. Let's go. All right, so I had a few goes. I did about, two times 30 seconds and like about a minute in total. It didn't liquefy, but look what I've got. It's really wet. It's kind of a paste, really, of watercress. So I think that's good enough. We're just going to add the butter in there. Now next, based on the translation, it says you have to add the butter bit by bit, so not all at once. So, okay, let's have a look. Maybe in 3 times. Oh, it's really, really emulsifying now. Let's stop there. Let's have a look. Look at that. Ooh. It's very hot still. I'm going to mix things around one last time, but look, with a pretty good color, that's going to be our butter. Now to make the log, typically I always get this wrong. I used to put it always in the middle of the, you put a piece of plastic wrap and put it in the middle, but no, because you need to kind of roll it. So you put it more towards one side in there, and then, you can kind of adjust. You don't have to make a perfect shape. And then we try to actually take that bit here, and as much as you can, you try to do a bit of a shape. You kind of roll it, and you do that, that wishy-washy kind of thing. Okay, and you have some kind of a, so if you do it better, you can have a bit of a log like that, and then you roll it like this. It's not the perfect log, but you have a good size. I like to have some slices that's a bit good. You can have something more elongated, but so delicately, and we want to put this in the fridge or the freezer if you're really in a rush. But be careful because it's very soft, so it will flatten the bottom. So try to roll it regularly. Otherwise, if it's not perfect, it's not a big deal. We're going to use it in the sauce anyway. So now that the butter is ready, it's here, watercress butter, nice and firm, has been refrigerated. We can now start the recipe. Now compared to last week, this is a much more straightforward recipe, and there's no cognac and things and layering of flavor. All what we're going to do, we're going to be poaching the chicken into a stock, more on that in a sec, and then serve this with a sauce that's going to be made only with the chicken broth reduced, some cream, and then the watercress butter mixed together. For the garnish, that recipe said that you can serve this with an array of vegetables, mainly carrots, celeriac, potatoes, turnip, and leeks, all of which have to be boiled individually and separately. Alright, so we're now ready to start poaching the chicken. Make sure you have your mise en place, you've washed and peeled all the vegetables you're going to be using. There's much more than that. You will see this on the recipe card as per the recipe from the chef for 4 people. But for me, this is what I need. I've got my chicken has been trussed, aromatic garnish, the veg that I need, and I've got a celeriac on the side. Let's go on the stove. Now, to poach the chicken, we're going to be using a cooking method that is called in France, the cooking method by concentration. So we're starting in a hot liquid, a boiling stock, and we're putting the chicken in a boiling stock first instead of a cold stock. So when you do this, it's like searing a steak. You're firming up the flesh and you minimize the loss of flavor inside the chicken, so it's not being lost into the broth. My stock is boiling, and the first thing I'm going to do on here is to add my aromatic garnish. So I've got my piece of extra leek, I've got my onion in here. I've already added some salt in my stock. If you haven't, you just use maybe 1 or 2 teaspoons of coarse salt, and that's enough. From here, I'm going to add the chicken, but I've removed some of my stock because you don't want the whole thing to overflow. So be very careful when you add this. That's very, you see? You see how it's just, happily I've done that, because we just have enough on here, okay, to actually start poaching our little bird on here. And now I'm going to follow on with these other vegetables. So before we do anything, I'm lowering the heat from here because we want to keep this from now on to a simmer. Let's add some more vegetables in there. Oh, my little carrot and some extra pieces of leek. Now before you start your timer, make sure you bring this back to a simmer because the chicken might be cold, and finding the right pan is going to be a bit of a challenge. You see, you have to use a large saucepan. This is 26 centimeters, I think, and quite high, so it just fits the chicken and it allows you to not having to use too much stock. If you have a larger pan, you're going to need like 2-3 liters of stock, which is, very difficult. If like me, you've got the chicken that kind of almost sticks out, what I've done, I've used a piece of leek here as a little blanket to avoid any drying, and put that on top. And I'm topping up as much as I can with the broth. So here I'm going to put my timer, and we see some simmer on here, 40 minutes, let's go. Now as an extra step, if you want, you can partly cover the pan. I don't have much space, so I can't cover it totally. But if you had a large pan, you could. But partly covered like this, you're going to maximize the heat and everything cooking. The time is up. I've got all my chicken here ready. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to discard all of the aromatic garnish, the bouquet garni, the onions, and that large piece of leek that I had on the side. Next, I'm going to take all my vegetables, so that means the carrot, the pieces of leek, and I'm going to reserve this in a pan on the side with a little bit of chicken broth into it, okay, to keep everything nice and warm, and if I want to adjust the cooking. So I'm going to have to fish out everything very diligently without breaking anything. Finally, when this is done, I'm going to put my chicken on the side and I'm going to scoop off about 300 to 350 milliliters of the chicken bouillon that we're going to be using to make the sauce. Now that I'm done, what I'm going to do is to leave the chicken in here. The heat is off. I'm putting a lid on, okay? I'm going to keep this warm until we serve. And now we're ready to look at the vegetables and make the sauce, and that's it. So very quickly to show what I've got. The chicken is cooked, it is reserved in its broth. I've got the vegetables here, the carrots and the leeks in one pan that are reserved also in a bit of broth, and I've got a celeriac ready to go. If I need to warm these up just before service, I put this on the stove and we're good to go. And now let's make the sauce. Now for the sauce, the first thing you're going to do is take all the bouillon that we've reserved. We're going to pass this through fine mesh cheese. If you want to go further, you can use a muslin cloth to filter it really, really well, but I just want to get rid of the hard bits here. Once the bouillon has been filtered, you transfer this into a pan, high heat, and we're going to reduce this by a third. So we had a roughly 300 ml, or a bit more. I'm going to reduce this to about 100, 120 ml. So when you reduce like this, don't hesitate, high heat, and you're going to win some time. And don't let it simmer, it's going to take you forever. All right, so the sauce is very rudimentary. It's a big reduction, so this is extremely tasty. I've just tasted it. It's a pronounced taste of chicken that is very, very strong. And that's going to be acting as the base, because from here all what we have is cream and butter. So the cream goes in, and then same thing here, you guessed, reduction again. So by half at least, so we get that kind of semi-syrupy consistency. The cream has reduced, this is what we've got. It's a bit like a sauce supreme. a supreme sauce. And from here, it says to incorporate the butter bit by bit, a bit like almost like a wow, like a beurre blanc. The book is saying all of the butter, but I've got my kind of reservation. I've got 3/4 of it, like almost 60 grams. So I'm going to start with a bit. And there was errors in the book before, so I'm not too sure. We'll go with the flow. See how we go. It rhymes as well. All right, so good 30 grams first. Let's look at the consistency. This is what we have. It's not bad for a sauce. I'm going to try it, a bit liquid. It says to use a brisk heat. That's an interesting taste, actually, this. And we're going to go and continue. Okay, I'm going to raise the heat as it says. I'm going to trust the chef. And we keep on incorporating. So this is the last of the butter I've added. I didn't reach boiling point because I don't want to, because in sauce making with butter typically you don't. But this is hot, it's fuming. So really not far from boiling point. And that looks pretty good to me. As a sauce that's gonna go with the chicken, I think we're good. Let's look at the consistency. We're napping the spoon. We're good to go. Heat off. The sauce is ready. The sauce is ready. All what you need to do now is to carve the chicken. And you see, if you leave it whole on a dish, unless you have a farmer's kind of corn-fed chicken, it looks beautiful. It's gonna look nice. A standard chicken like this doesn't look great. So typically what I do, I'll carve it. And I tend to kind of remove the skin on here that's there, because it's got a bit of a tinge, you see. And I like to just reveal more the white part there. And after for my carving, so I don't leave the skin on. You can see the difference in color. So I'm just gonna cut a piece here, dress, put some vegetable, put some sauce, and we're gonna be done. Okay, so once you've carved your chicken, the process of plating, I will just have to make a quick picture here. Chicken breast on here, whatever piece you cover with the sauce, a few vegetables, and that's it. You've got something that's interesting and elegant. But for me, what I'm most interested in, of course, is the combination of taste that I was actually talking about from the beginning. So the chicken with that technique of leaving it in the juice is very moist. And the watercress here, I don't have that taste of mustard that we're talking about. More on the spinachy kind of side, but very fresh. Let me check the vegetables. So this is the celeriac. I think you see the freshness of the sauce on here with the vegetables. It is really important, I think, in what the chef has been trying to do here. It's nice and pink, the chicken. So really, when you combine the vegetables that have been poached in there with the sauce and everything, I think it comes to life. So the vision was really something, the whole thing, you know. The chicken, the sauce, the vegetables, and I didn't have the other vegetables that were, recommended. But to be honest, it works really well. So let's wrap up Adventure. This is the second episode, another recipe, Frédy Girardet, a different chef, different technique. And I've loved the versatility of that watercress butter. You can use it on its own, or to make a simple sauce here with the reduced bouillon that we had, some cream, and the butter. It actually works really well. You got that nice creaminess. And I've loved the garden fresh flavor from the butter because it was not blanched. So it's not like cooked spinach. And it really connects with all of the vegetables. So typically you would have even more vegetables in there. And that poached chicken is really stay nice and juicy. You know, once it was cooked for a short time and then left in that bouillon to sit. And it's really give a nice effect because it had time to rest and release all the juices. And I think the flavors, because of the cooking method starting hot, has really worked. It's really actually very tasty. So if you try the recipe, let me know in the comment section. Now, before we go and move to the third episode with the other compound butter, I'm going to be making a midweek video where we're going to be reusing that broth that we have, that bouillon, that chicken bouillon, and use that to make a beautiful chicken sauce that we can use with something else. So make sure you join me for that video, and that's going to be connecting to that one. So like this is going to be no waste whatsoever. But that's it for this video. I'll leave you, of course, with that picture, and make sure to come back to the channel to see what's going to be happening next. Take care all. Bye-bye.
Baby, you give me ice and fire. wind and rain. You're some kind of butterfly. Baby, you give me midnight. You whip up my ass.